The Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign is focused on getting justice for the striking miners at the Battle of Orgreave, which happened on 18th of June 1984. The battle, as it's now known, was basically a violent confrontation between the police and the striking miners on that day. And what we've got to remember is these were 5,000 mainly young striking miners who were fighting in defence of their jobs and their security and having a thriving community. So that's what it's all about, really. I'm supporting the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign by tabling a motion to Bradford Council meeting. Now, tabling a motion is basically a statement of support saying why we think we should be supporting the calls to the Home Secretary for a full independent public inquiry into what happened at Orgreave on June the 18th, 1984. It's very important that Bradford Council supports the campaign because we do have in Bradford people who were at Orgreave that day, and trade unionists, workers, residents of this district have stood by and in the calls for justice. And one thing we've got to remember about the Battle of Orgreave is that because an injustice happened a number of years ago, it doesn't mean to say that it can be forgotten by time. It's vitally important that we stand with the people who experience those injustices and call for that much needed independent public inquiry. The public inquiry is so important for a number of reasons, but I think the main things what come out of this was the militarised nature of the police tactics on that day, on the June the 18th, 1984. Miners were beaten, badly beaten, kicked to the ground. They were talking about 6,000 police officers in a very small concentrated area. This didn't happen by mistake. So we've got that militarised nature, the beating up of the miners, that sheer brutality. We've also got, after the falsification of statements by the police. Police officers are now coming out years later saying they were told what to write in their statements following the battle day. So if that doesn't tell you why you need a public inquiry, I don't know what does. The also other key thing is the false narrative, what was set by some media sources as well, which then shaped the public perceptions. Again, another reason why we need the public inquiry. But another really relevant point to mention is what happened at Hillsborough. This was South Yorkshire Police again. So this covered up what happened at Orgreave. It begs the question, would some of those things what happened at Hillsborough have happened if the cover-up of Orgreave never took place? The Battle of Orgreave happened in 1984, but it still has massive significance today. Many of those miners were taken to court charged with riot, which potentially could have brought a life sentence with it. But after a number of weeks, the case fell flat on its face because the defence proved discrepancies in police statements. There was photographs which proved what some of the police were saying was wrong, and police claimed to have arrested some miners who weren't even there on the day. So a number of questions remain, and that key question really is that there were people in power who made decisions on that day, and we need to know who they are so we can ensure they are held to account and to ensure that we get truth and justice for those miners at Orgreave. So through this motion, I think the first thing to say is that on that day in 1984, it must have been an absolutely terrifying experience for those people who were picketing that day. They'd not planned for this. They'd planned to go along and peacefully picket, which is their absolute right to do. But what they were met with is actually a police force what ran riot and beat many of those miners into submission on that day. So what we're doing through this motion, we are calling for the Home Secretary, Amber Rudd, to call for a full-scale, public, independent inquiry into the actions of what happened that day, because we want to give, through a full independent inquiry, we want to give those miners a voice so we can get the answers we need and so that we can actually get the truth and justice we know is needed.
When we look at what happened at Orgreave, there was a significant police operation there which resulted in countless numbers of miners being really seriously injured and arrested.
Because it's become clearer over the years since then, and as more people who were at Orgreave have been speaking out, that the official line and narrative as to what happened on that day grotesquely distorted. Witness statements submitted by police officers were either dictated by senior officers or were completely rewritten. There were people testifying to things that they couldn't possibly have seen from where they were. Certainly there's also been a lot of media intervention and messing up with the order of things that happened. Newsreel recorded of the day was not played in order. It was messed around with and rejigged to tell a very different story to what people who were on the picket and people who were there had to say about it.
What happened at Orgreave is still relevant, as we still see inappropriate kettling, mass use of force and mass arrest, with police overcharging after demonstrations.
There needs to be a proper public inquiry, because to date none of the officers involved in the violence that took place at Orgreave has faced justice for injuries inflicted. None of the commanding officers have faced any form of discipline for the decisions that were taken on that day and that led to the devastating and frightening events that took place. The only way that that is going to happen is with a full public inquiry with proper judicial process.
Officers present at the Orgreave picket line have begun to come forward, as most of the statements they were told were dictated to them. Now we encourage more officers like yourselves, and if you are out there, to come and speak the truth.
As a result of what happened, many miners lost their jobs and families, and there's been a fundamental distrust of the police throughout the mining community ever since, that will only be addressed really with an inquiry.
So I'm really pleased to announce that Bradford Council has just passed a motion supporting calls for a full public independent inquiry into what happened at the Battle of Orgreave on June the 18th, 1984. The motion was very much about getting justice and truth for those miners in wake of the police lies, deceptions and cover-ups what happened that day. So we're really calling on, and I say directly now to Amber, the Home Secretary, we need that independent inquiry so we can get truth, so we can get justice, and so the police, the mining community and everybody involved at Orgreave can move on.